Hi, and welcome to another exciting evening of Pirate News. Uh, we have quite a bit to talk about, and of course, with me is Jamie and Steve. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening?
Well, I'm doing great.
Fantastic. And that being said, obviously, we're going to jump right into what's going on with the COVID thing today. Very difficult day as things are opening up. We have more and more confirmed cases than ever before. Steve, would you mind filling us in with some of the statistics?
So there earlier on, uh, the northeastern United States was the epicenter of the pandemic, and this seems to be shifting. Florida added 10,000 confirmed cases yesterday. California added 5,400. Arizona about 3,500. Texas also about 3,500, and another 2,100 in Georgia. Um, I'm glad to see that we are on a more stable footing in in the Northeast and in New England in particular, but other parts of the country seem to be definitely on the upswing. I mean, since this has all started, we've had over 2.8 million confirmed cases in the United States and nearly 130,000 deaths. So this has been and continues to be a very serious affair.
Yeah, I heard today we had more cases um, just confirmed than all of Wuhan had in its entirety from start to finish up until this date. Um,
Mhm.
and so, I mean, it's just such a serious thing. As these bans are lifting, um, people are going out, they're going to the bar. I mean, you can't even maintain when you're drinking, you can't maintain any social distance. So, I mean, at the same time, it's good to cut loose, but going and having a good time, seeing your friends, is still a pretty serious thing. I mean, you don't think about it once you're having a good time to
Mhm.
really keep your mask up or block stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
and I mean, I think one of the indicators of how serious this has been is the one website I've been using to kind of keep tabs on, what's happening with COVID-19. They've got a map of the United States, and they've color coded states by, sort of green to yellow to red, depending on like the number of cases or the number of deaths. And and recently they had to redo their color scheme because everything was just had turned red. So it's kind of like recalibrate the categories in order for them to be meaningful again. Yeah, it's just bad news.
yeah, and again, with everything going on with this, um, a lot of people are wondering what's going to happen with their jobs, with their living situations. Coming up on the 18th, the emergency eviction memorandum is going to end, and the 18th of August, excuse me.
August,
And
yeah.
so that's going to put out a lot of people. I know in my hometown of Lowell, it's going to put 50% of the entire population out in the streets. That's
Yeah,
like that. It's outrageous. In Lawrence, it's even worse. It's up to
mhm,
70%.
yeah.
So,
What
I
I
mean,
find amazing is that where do they expect who? So if you go and you are a landlord and you evict someone, who do you expect is going to be your new tenant? Right? Because anyone who's evicted is going to lose their security and their deposit. So they're not going to have money to put down a security deposit on a new apartment. I mean, why we're not extending this, especially when the the economic crisis that we're seeing has not in any way abated. On Monday, Massachusetts allows casinos and museums and movie theaters and things like that to start, provided people social distance and wear masks to go back to some sort of business as usual. Um, but we'll see where we are with that. I mean, the figures that I saw from Massachusetts is at least 20 to 25% of the work of people who had jobs no longer have jobs. So how are they going to pay for rent?
Yeah, and I mean, I have some tenants, and one works as a cook, the other works in retail. They have been unemployed or have had very little hours available to them since this whole thing began. And every month, I ask them how, what do you want to do about rent this year or this month? And so far it's been, yeah, could we hold off? Could you give us a break for the month? And so far I've had the luxury of doing that. And I do it because, I mean, if they're not working, they don't have money coming in, and they need the break far more than I do. So, but yeah, for a lot of folks, I'd always kept a cushion, like a few months of money sort of stashed away in the bank in case something happened where I couldn't work for a couple of months.
Hey,
But
boo.
this is turning out to be a really long event.
Oh, you-
But I mean, I think it just highlights that we need something like a universal basic income. I mean, the Fed can go and create trillions of dollars out of thin air to lend to corporations. Something like $60 billion to the airline industry. I think Boeing got a good chunk of many billions of dollars as well. And even the cruise ship industry, which most assuredly are not U.S. ships and are not U.S. companies and are somewhere in, say, the Cayman Islands or whatever to get out of taxes. And there's still money for them. And yet now they're talking about ending the extra money you get for unemployment in the end of July. I mean, I don't understand in this economy how people are going to be able to survive.
I think that's a big mistake. And if by giving people who are unemployed, a unemployment, the equivalent of a universal basic income while they remain unemployed, they can pay rent. There won't be mass evictions. They'll be able to eat, you know, you know, and provide for their families. And I don't see. I agree with you completely. I don't see the logic in giving people, putting people in a situation where they have no alternative and no way to succeed.
So, what I would really like to see from all you guys out there listening is definitely hashtag stop mass evictions on Twitter is something that we really definitely support, and we would really like you to annoy your legislators. Call your mass reps, call the people who are going to make this decision to be able to push it back so that way we can actually do something about this. And so we really need to get ahead of this and make sure on August 18th a lot of people are not homeless. Because if we have any hope of recovery, it's going to be on the backs of people. Following that, there is a topic that I just remembered that I want to talk about. They are actually talking about doing something and thinking about doing something for those who are childcare. I know that that's been a major issue, and I think that's going to come up in a video very soon about us talking about what the overall plan is to get people back into, so they don't have to choose between either childcare or their jobs. And I think a lot of the economy is going to get kickstarted with that. Mm-hmm. However, that being said, coming up, there is something that's going on that's a good news on the pirate front. Jamie, something happened over in Easthampton, I think you were talking about.
So in Easthampton, the city council met and they decided to put in place a moratorium on municipal use of facial recognition software. That follows on Boston, the city council voting unanimously to put a moratorium on the use of facial recognition. That has since passed and is now an ordinance in that passed. The mayor approved it, and that's an ordinance in Boston. So we expect the same will happen in Northampton as well. But no, Boston, Northampton now join. I believe Brookline, Somerville, Cambridge, in at least in cities or towns that have imposed moratoriums on the use of facial recognition software.
All right, and that is all the time we have for today. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. And all you out there, of course, like, subscribe, and share. And also, check out our page, our wiki, in order to get on the mailing list, because that's a big thing for us, too.
Just find us at masspirates.org.
Thank you, guys.